Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
この村は常識では考えられない現象が起きてもおかしくないからな。
I tried to spin a few words, but nothing I said brought me any peace of mind. I've investigated many places as an occult writer, but this was a first for me. A village that's been blockaded for over 20 years, where the dead walk freely and the living can be demoned away in an instant.
一体何がどうなっているんだ。
Maybe I shouldn't have come to Hinamizawa after all. I knew nothing of the incomprehensible power at work within this village.
ありがとよ、リカちゃん。おかげで助かったよ。
And then, Rika-chan. She smiled as she passed by my side. And then...
先に行ってるわね。
え？
早く済ませた方がいいわ。もう、あまり時間は残っていないから。
あ。
Then, once I came to my senses, I looked back. But nobody was there. That scene, it was like a dream. Then I understood. I knew. The reason why the girl who died on that day appeared before me.
ありがとう、リカちゃん。
Then I held the sword up high to express my gratitude to the empty room. That moment, it seemed like someone was laughing in the far corners of the darkness. I could feel it. And to be honest, this girl is the most mysterious thing of all. She was far too knowledgeable about the history and geography of this village for someone who hastily prepared for this trip. Plus, when I stumbled upon her belongings in the car, they looked wholly unsuited for magazine coverage. Even though this was her first time meeting Sonozaki-san, they were both acting like they'd known each other for a long time. And what's even more unnatural is they seemed to know each other, but refused to speak a single word of it. What is going on here? Who the hell is she?
リアノスケさん、大丈夫ですか？顔真っ青ですよ。
荒川さん。
やっぱりないみたいです。
ないって。
だから私たちの車ですよ。もしかしたら本当に鬼隠しなのかもしれませんね。私たちから車を取り上げて、私たちをこの神社に閉じ込めて、本当に鬼に一人ずつ殺されてしまうのかも。
みゆきちゃん、変なこと言わないでくれよな。
でも誰もいない村なのに車だけが消えてしまう。どう考えてもおかしいですよね。
それは。
I swallowed my spit in one big gulp. After confirming my reaction, Yuki-chan continued.
もしかしたら私たちの中に鬼がいるのかもしれませんよ。
盗まれた。
Suddenly, I became lost in thought. Come to think of it, Yuki-chan and I left the keys to her car inside too. Someone could have stolen it too. So in other words, this had nothing to do with occult phenomena like curses or being demoned away. There's still a possibility that there are more people in this village than just us. And who the hell could it be? And for what? Or was this a trap meant to lure us all somewhere? Or maybe this really is the work of demons? Could it be the work of the dead, meddling in the lives of the living, cutting off our means of escape, and then strangling us to death?
なあ、乙部。
何ですか？
さっきから聞いてりゃ、まるで見てきたような口ぶりだな。
That's what it looks like to me.
練炭自殺ってことは確かに俺もお前に話した。だけど車の中の様子まで話した記憶はない。まして窓を目張りしてるなんてことはな。
Otobe gasped and turned to look away. He knows. This guy knows something.
そんなことないですよ。そういう事例の時ってどれも似たようなもんじゃないですか。そうでしょ？
ま、その通りだよな。ならいい。お前はここで待ってろよ。俺一人で行くからさ。
荒川さん。
As soon as I started to walk off, Otobe frantically grabbed my hand. I see. I was planning to bluff him by hiding the fact that we broke the windows. But it seems I was right on the money. I was slowly starting to understand why he was so vehemently opposed.
無理なんかしてないよ。まあ今思ったんだけどさ、園崎さんも車で来てるんだろ？だったらあの人の車を使えばいいんじゃねえの？
あ、そうですよ。そうだ。ミオンさんの車を使えばいいんですよ。
Otobe donned a cheerful expression and quickened his pace. Between this and the suggestion to use the suicide party's car, the difference in his reaction felt like night and day. I sped up to keep pace with Otobe and carefully examined his complexion.
なあ、園崎さんってさ、本当に車で来てんのかな？
ん？
車乗ってきたのかなってさ。
何を言い出すんですか。車じゃなかったらどうやって。
Then, after I said it, Otobe caught his breath when he realized where I was going.
まさか。
If Sonozaki-sen was a roaming spirit who wandered this village, then she wouldn't have needed to take a car here. She was waiting here in this village to devour us.
そんなはずないですよ。そんなバカなこと。
Otobe stood there, dryly laughing to himself. But there was no laughter in his eyes. He probably has the same suspicion as I did. However, it's far too implausible to actually speak it out loud.
まあそうだよな。レイが俺たちと酒なんて組み交わすとも思えないし、考えすぎかな。
This should have been a carefree topic, but when my flashlight periodically illuminated the side of Otobe's face, I could see a steady stream of sweat dribbling down. You sure it's not just rainwater? And I don't think he's sweating because of the heat or humidity. This was the greasy sweat of a person struggling to keep something hidden. And his non-stop chatter made it abundantly clear he had a secret to hide.
乙部は。
ああ、もうすぐ神社ですね。
Otobe cut me off, then fled up the stone steps. He's definitely hiding something, and I'm certain it's related to the suicide party. Those doubts nagged at me as I climbed the stone steps, watching Otobe's back. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the Higurashi when they cry consular arcs. So, who's ready to get back to our game of suspecting everybody and everyone around us of keeping secrets that could prove to be deadly to everyone around us? I know I am. My increasing paranoia most certainly is too. So let's hop right into it today, shall we? The lights in the assembly hall were shining bright. When I entered the room, Towa-san and Miyuki-chan were sitting across from one another.
どうでした？
Not too well. Otobe made damn sure of that. Tawada-san asked that with a stern look on her face. I had no choice but to quietly shake my head.
そうですか。
やっぱりなかったんですか？
ああ、ずいぶん遠くまで探したんだけど、真っ暗で何も見えねえんだよ。獣道にでも引っ張り込まれたんじゃねえかって乙部と話してたんだけど。
引っ張り込まれたって、誰にですか？
いや、それはよくわかんねえけどさ。
The conversation was turning sour, so I sat down on the tatami for the time being. I wasn't sure what else to tell her.
匠くんは絶対に生きてます。
当然だろ。
Though I said as much, I didn't believe it. I gazed at the tatami in front of me and pretended to think about something to avoid making eye contact with Tawada-san. I wasn't sure why, but somehow I had a feeling Kurosawa was no longer alive. But I realized that now wasn't the best time to say it. I decided to set it aside for now. The rain and mud-caked hem of my pants uncomfortably clung to my legs.
十和田さん、明日の朝になったらもう一度探しに行きますから。だから。
おいおい、そうじゃねえだろ。その前に今日のうちに警察に知らせねえとまずいだろ。車はなくなるわ、携帯は壊されるわ、人はどんどん消えてくわ。この調子じゃ明日の朝まで俺たちだって生きていられるかどうかもわかんねえんだぜ。
それはそうかもしれないですけど、でも。
Otobe began to mumble something. I still wasn't sure what he was trying to hide, but this wasn't the time to get into it.
とにかく今日中に警察に知らせよう。これはどう見たって異常事態なんだ。
でも知らせることなんてできないですよね。
いや、実は方法をさっき思いついたんだ。そんで一つお願いなんだけどさ、園崎さん、あんたの車ちょっと貸してくんねえかな。
私のかい？
Sonozaki-san, who was listening to the conversation from a short distance away, suddenly raised her head in surprise.
ああ、あんたの車を借りて沖宮の警察に直接行って話してこようと思うんだよ。こんなところで一晩じっとしているよりはその方がずっといいと思うし。あるんだろ車。そんな着物姿でこんな山ん中を歩いてきたとは言わせねえぞ。
What if she did?
龍之介さん、そういう聞き方は。
That last sentence was essentially my way of asking, you're not a ghost, right? I'm well aware that I won't get a straight answer if I ask that directly. Sonozaki-san may have laughed, but her face looked dead serious. She stood there without moving a muscle, and the sword still hanging in front of her chest. Why is she reacting like this? Maybe she really isn't a human being, but a ghost, or she just walked here.
なあ、あんたの車どの辺に止めたんだ？
神社の前の道さ、石段の近くだよ。もっと村の方寄りだけどね。
Otobe turned to me as soon as he heard that. And then he whispered something so quiet that only I could hear it.
荒川さん、それってちょっとおかしくないですか？
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing another car in that exact location, if I remember right.
なんだよ乙部。
さっきずいぶん歩きましたけど、車なんてどこにもなかったじゃないですか。
そういや、
人目につかないところに止めたのさ。波の人間じゃ気づかないようなところにね。
Sonozaki-san fixated her threatening eyes straight toward mine. That moment, I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Impossible thoughts began taking concrete shapes inside my head. Sonozaki-san didn't actually drive a car here, did she? Mion Sonozaki was supposed to be dead, but the person standing before me was actually a ghost inhabiting this village. That explained everything. If she was a ghost, it wouldn't be unusual for her to be walking around this village. In other words, Sonozaki-san didn't come from outside the village, so she didn't need a car.
なんだい？
Doesn't really explain her aging, though.
何かおかしなことでもあったかい？
Something odd. What are you saying? There are so many odd things about you. My palms were drenched with sweat. My throat was painfully dry. Though I had more to say, my throat felt so strained I couldn't use it. My nervous system was shattered by the extreme tension.
一つ聞いてもいいかな？
どうぞ。
あんた、本当はどっから来たんだ？
もしかして荒川は、私が鬼だか幽霊だかじゃないかとでも思っているのかい？
I couldn't respond. It was clearly just as she said. If she was a ghost, she shouldn't have any legs and wouldn't make sounds while walking. But none of those indicators were present. I think Rika would like a word with you. I quietly stared at Sonozaki-san while she stood there motionless. No matter how hard I looked, I couldn't discern anything about her true identity. But there was nothing else I could do.
龍之介さん、どうしたんですか？なんだか思い詰めた顔をしてますけど。
I heard Miyuki-chan's anxious voice come from somewhere far away. I see. I guess it really shows on my face that I have been lost in thought. My throbbing heart gradually returned to normal. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. But I barely spoke up anyway.
園崎さんの車、本当にあるのか？
はあ、バカをお言いでないよ。車じゃないとしたら、私はどうやってここへ来たって言うんだい？着物を着て、草履を履いて、何キロもの山道をテクテク歩いてこんな廃村に来たとでも本気で思ってるのかい？
I didn't think anything of the sort. However, if she was in this what if she was in this village from the very start? That's right. Sonozaki-san was here the whole time. So in order to disguise that, she had to refuse the request I made earlier. Letting me borrow her car wasn't an unreasonable request. The idea that Sonozaki-san was a ghost repeated over and over inside my head, and it was getting stronger. Then, what should I do now? Borrowing Sonozaki-san's car was no longer an option. I had to come up with another plan. In the end, was walking the only option? Down a mountain road with no streetlights, on a night like this?
わかったよ。車を取ってくりゃいいんだろ。
Sonozaki-san abruptly rose to her feet as she said that, then began carefully walking forward. Her car really exists? Apparently so. No, that can't be. Why not? Restlessness consumed my heart as I watched her walk off. Given the current situation, there was a distinct possibility Sonozaki-san would never return here ever again. Was she trying to escape somewhere on her own and leave us behind? Or was she keeping us confined here, intent on picking us off one by one?
園崎さん！
ん？
あんた、ちゃんとここへ戻ってくるよな。車取ってきたら、そのままいなくなっちまうってことはないよな。
ずいぶんな疑われようだね。そんなに心配なら見張ってりゃいいだろ。なんなら、私と一緒に来るかい？
I was completely baffled by Sonozaki-san's offer. Unbelievable. I never expected she'd ask me to come along. Maybe that's because she wants to get you alone somewhere so she can stab ya! So, what on earth am I going to do? Feeling lost, I turned back toward Miyuki-chan. She looked dazed for a moment, but then her eyes widened and she nodded to me.
私はここで待ってますよ。十和田さん、もう少しここで休んでいた方がいいと思いますから。ですよね。私は。いいの、大丈夫。一緒にここにいましょう。ここで二人で龍之介さんたちが戻ってくるのを待ってますから。はい。
Tawada-san appeared vexed by Miyuki-chan's suggestion, but she nodded in agreement.
あ、そうだ。
What about Otabe? I stole a quick glance at Otabe as I pondered that. Otabe was irritatingly indecisive, but the fact I instinctively wanted to know others' opinions might have shown I wasn't all that great at making decisions either. Sure enough, Otabe was looking back and forth between myself and Sonozaki-san, and at a loss for what to do.
早く決めてくれなきゃ夜が明けちまうよ。私は先に行くから。あんたたちは好きにしな。
Sonozaki-san slipped on her sandals, popped open her old-fashioned umbrella, and started walking toward the shrine gate in the pouring rain.
園崎さん
I need to make a decision. I called out to Sonozaki-san from behind. I will go with you.
俺も一緒に行きます。
あ、僕も。
I threw on my sneakers and dashed out of the assembly hall after Sonozaki-san, and Otabe hastily chased after me from behind.
おい、乙女、ついてくるなら懐中電灯。
あ、そうだ。
As Otabe said that, he ran back to the assembly hall's shoe rack to grab the flashlight he left behind. Then, I chased after Sonozaki-san. For a while now, I've had a strong feeling that Sonozaki-san knows something about our current situation. If that's the case, I won't step away from her until I hear some answers. And I felt that if I gave her a pass for even a moment, something else was bound to happen. I had no idea what it might be, but I was certain I shouldn't give Sonozaki-san the opportunity.
荒川さん、ミオンさん。
Otabe ran toward us with a flashlight in hand. The light absentmindedly swayed up and down, left and right, shine all around. When Sonozaki-san saw that, she raised an eyebrow slightly.
乙部、そいつはもうちょっと下に向けといで。
Otabe stared at Sonozaki-san with a blank face that seemed to ask why. However, she silently walked over to the boy, grabbed his hand, and pointed the flashlight downward.
注意するんだね。そういう迂闊があんたたちの命を縮めるよ。
After tossing that warning out, Sonozaki-san turned and began walking once again. Otabe looked perplexed and turned to me for support. Indeed, it's difficult to search for anything if you can't see beyond your own feet. No. Wait a minute. In other words, Sonozaki-san didn't want to illuminate our surroundings. Was it because she didn't want someone to know our location? And who could that someone be? Not that. Thinking wildly is even less productive than not thinking at all. As I thought that, I continued walking and urged Otabe forward. When we reached the base of the stone steps, The road extended to the left and right. The road to the right led back the way we came, and the road to the left headed toward the center of the village.
どっちですか?
Sonozaki-san began walking to the left without saying a word. The rest of us followed behind her. I couldn't hear anything but the sound of the rain striking the trees and our footsteps on the muddy road. No matter how far we walked down that straight, pitch-black road, I couldn't see any cars.
ずいぶん遠くへ止めたんだな。
おかしいね。こんなに遠くのはずないんだけどね。
Wait a minute. There really is a car, right? Her carefree tone only heightened my doubts. Was Sonozaki-san simply trying to lure us to a remote location? And her goal? And was her goal to dispose of us? This is no time to be joking around. I know, I already made that joke. I shook my head to stave off my unpleasant thoughts.
本当に見当たらないね。こりゃひょっとすると、私の車も鬼隠しにあっちまったのかね。
あのな、こういう時に変な冗談はよしてくれよ。
園崎さん、本当に車で来たんですよね。
当たり前だろ。乙部までそんなことを言い出すのかい？
だって、いえ、すみません。
だいたいあんた、あの神社に何の用で来たんだよ。
言わなかったかい？西宮殿に用があったのさ。
The ritual storehouse was a building housing all of Hinamizawa's ritualistic tools. But they were rituals in name only. The tools were used for torture. What on earth was she trying to do in a place like that?
だから西宮殿なんかに何の用があったんだって聞いてんだよ。
根掘り葉掘り聞くのが好きなのはあんたの性分かい？
Frustration in Sonozaki-tan's tone essentially told me to shut up without actually saying it. However, I wasn't about to bend to her will. Because if I wouldn't silent any time that sort of thing happened, I wouldn't be much of a writer. I stretched my bravado as hard as I could and continued pressuring her.
悪いが、おかしいと思ったらとことん聞くのは俺の性分なんでね。実際に俺たちは事件に巻き込まれてる。だから今はとにかく不安要素を取り除いておきたいんだ。ちょっとくらい教えてくれてもいいだろう。
あんたは知らない方がいいよ。
どういうことだよ。
言葉通りの意味さ。
Sonozaki-san's answer was curt. Her expression was austere. She seemed intent on not saying anything more. Then she sealed her lips and continued walking silently. That very moment, a flashlight began swaying erratically.
どうした乙女。
今、何か確かに。
Excuse me. Otsupe pointed his flashlight left and right, searching for something. There was an old tire laying on the side of the road for who knows how long.
何かって何を見たんだ。
今、何か音がしましたよね。
音？
Otsupe and I turned our flashlights toward the forest. However, our lights couldn't reach the recesses of the forest. They could only vaguely illuminate the country road and the weeds growing beside it.
誰かいますよ。
気のせいだろ。行くよ。
おい。
Sonozaki-san paid it little heed and continued walking. Though I didn't feel any signs of human presence either.
荒川さん。
とにかく行こうぜ。いくら探してもこんなチャチな懐中電灯じゃわかんねえだろうし。
でも
いいから 行くぞ。
Though Otobe continued to hesitate, I turned my back and kept walking. I could vaguely make out some of the houses as we traveled down the road. It looked like a small community where a few residents had lived. And of course I forgot to silence my phone. Several houses appeared to be lined up, but I couldn't discern anything about them in this darkness. If someone was lurking in one of those houses, it would be tough to find them.
変だね。こんなに遠くに止めたはずはないのに。
本当に？
本当さ。
As you said that, Sonzaki-sen walked down a straight road, running between two houses. I think it's pretty obvious she's taking us for a ride. The uninhabited houses were all lined up, waiting for us.
やっぱり引き返しましょうよ。車なくなってるんですよ。
そりゃそうだけど、もうちょっと探してみようじゃないか。
The tone of Otobe's voice made clear he was ready to give up, but she completely tuned it out and steadily continued walking. Hold on. Isn't that odd? I don't know what part of the village we're in, but we've walked a long way from the shrine. Even if the car was out here, she wouldn't have forgotten where she parked it. So, in other words, Sonozaki brought us out here because she wanted to get us away from the shrine?
もう戻りましょうよ。集会所でまたみんなで相談すればいいじゃないですか。
相談？なんだよ相談って。車がなきゃ俺たちはこの村から出られねえんだぞ。
それはそうですけど、だってこの辺りってなんか嫌な感じがしますよ。
I don't need you telling me that. I grumbled in my head, but decided to encourage him and tell him he was overthinking it, annoyed by the idea of simply accepting it.
誰も住んでねえからそう感じるだけだってば。考えすぎるんだよ。情報がなさすぎるとさ。何もないものをあると錯覚したり。
そうじゃないんですよ。だから。
おい。大きい声を出すんじゃないよ。
はい。
Sonozaki-san continued walking down the road as soon as she saw Otobe nod, frantically surveying her surroundings along the way. What on earth is she looking for out here? There was something oddly suspicious about Sonozaki-san right now. I had reached the point where I could no longer quietly follow along.
おい、園崎さんよ。一体どこまで行くんだよ。
おかしいね。車がないんだよ。
だからこんな遠くには止めてないんだろ。
そうなんだけどね。
I had a bad feeling about those words. Maybe the car really did disappear?
もう一回聞くけど、あんた本当に車に乗ってきたんだろうな。
当たり前だろ。ほれ、これが私の車だよ。
Sonozaki-san dangled her car keys right in front of my nose. A sickeningly colorful keychain jangled from the tip of the key ring. It certainly looked like a set of car keys.
止めたのはどのあたり？
神社から一番近い民家の脇の草むらの中さ。
は？それってもうとっくに通り過ぎてるじゃねえかよ。
だからおかしいって言ってんだよ。
As she said that, Sonozaki-san walked by the vacant houses and checked them one by one. I understand not finding the car, but why is she checking the houses? Every house was in shambles. I could see the completely dark and quiet rooms beyond the broken windows. An open door flailed to and fro in the wind. The rain continued falling quietly. The hinges creaked as a door that shouldn't have had anyone nearby slowly opened. that moment, Otebe dropped his flashlight, and the surrounding area was swallowed by the darkness.
すみません。
And right here, I'm willing to bet something's about to happen. Something very unpleasant, right? Otebe knelt down and grabbed the flashlight in a panic, but he had trouble getting it to light up. He filled with the switch, but it wouldn't turn on.
どうした？
すみません。これ、壊れちゃったみたいです。
Well, isn't that just peachy?
何やってんだよ！
すみません。
いや、
I got caught up in the moment and started yelling. After all, I was having a hard enough time just walking around a ghost town with a mysterious woman. But have our lights stopped working on top of that? The fear and anxiety blended together inside my heart, culminating in a vague sense of unease. I immediately began to regret lashing out at Otebe.
悪かったな。声を荒げたりして。
いえ、僕が悪いんです。すみません。でも、やっぱり、聞こえますよね。時々、人が走ってるような足音が。
足音？
I listened carefully. The sound of rain and wind, and mixed together with that, I turned in the direction of the sound. It was a house. Nobody should be living there, but I'm certain I heard a sound just now.
大方キツネかタヌキだろ。確かめに行ってみようじゃないか。
Sonozaki-san started walking toward the source of the sound. In her hand, she firmly clenched the bag containing her katana. Then she stopped and listened very carefully.
乙部の言う通り、確かにいるね。
何が？
ネズミかもね。
That moment, a shadow moved across the house.
静かに。
Sonozaki-san held a hand over Otobe's mouth to silence him. I'm certain that was the shadow of a person. A black shadow inside that house. Impossible. This is an abandoned village. But that was definitely a person. My knees were trembling.
なんでだよ。なんなんだよ。ありゃ。
荒川も騒ぐんじゃないよ。
Then Sonozaki-san unsheathed her katana and walked toward the house where the shadowy figure lurked.
園崎さん。
荒川さん、僕たち、どうしたら。
I think you should stand back and let the lady do her work.
知るかよ。
We kept a close eye on Sonozaki-san's surroundings as she walked down the road. Her cool expression made clear she didn't need watching over. There wasn't much we could do to protect her. I couldn't help but tremble as I watched. Sonozaki-san stopped in front of a small two-story wooden house. The tin awning on the roof was peeling off, but the front door was still firmly attached. Still clenching her sword, Sonozaki-san kicked the door open in a single forceful blow. The surrounding area was still quiet. Sonozaki-san carefully stepped inside the pitch-dark house. Otebe and I each held our breath as we watched her go. After a while, Sonozaki-san came back looking disappointed.
誰もいやしないよ。
Really?
嘘でしょ。だって僕、確かに見たんですよ。
私だって見たよ。誰かが確かにこの家に入っていくのをね。でも、いないんだよ。
一体、何がどうなってるんだ？
Sonozaki-san put her sword away. However, she muttered something as she did.
敵が動き出していることは間違いないようだね。
敵って。
それ以上は言えないよ。
ちょっとあんた、なんで言えないんだよ。大事なことだろうが。
大きな声を出すんじゃないよ。鬼に取り殺されても知らないよ。
鬼？
Otebe, Sonozaki-san, and I stood in the middle of the country road, carefully listening to our surroundings. Once again, I heard noises coming from one of the houses.
どうしようかね。
どうするって、何をどうするんだよ。
あんたたち、本当に死んじゃうかもしれないね。
Thanks for the vote of confidence. Sonozaki-san looked Otebe and I each other directly in the eyes as she said that, with a serious look on her face. It's hard to tell how serious she's being when she uses words like die. It certainly doesn't seem like she's joking around. But are we seriously in a situation of a risk of death? What the hell for? How high is the risk? I was completely beyond all imagination. Haven't you guys been spending the past couple episodes paranoid that someone has been killing you guys off? One by one, or is trying to at least? It seemed pointless to think about it any further when I clearly had no clue what was going on. Clearly.
私はここでネズミを片付けていくけど、あんたたちはどうする？
そりゃ、俺たちは戻らせてもらうよ。集会所でも何でも。
でも荒川さん、車はやっぱりないんですよね。
His comments stung. I choked on my words.
そうだね。悪いけど、歩いて帰るしかなさそうだ。
十和田さんたちは大丈夫なんでしょうか。
Those few words from Otebe made me catch my breath. That's right. Miyuki-chan. She's still back at the assembly hall with Tawada-san. Miyuki-chan should be nursing Tawada-san right now, but what if the rats Sonozaki-san mentioned had made their way to the assembly hall? Anxiety quickly fired up as I thought about Miyuki-chan. If those rats knew that those two defenseless girls were inside, they'd attack without hesitation, wouldn't they? Probably.
俺、集会所に戻ります。二人が心配だ。
ああ、それがいいよ。乙部はどうする？
僕も荒川さんと一緒に行きます。
わかった。私も後から行くよ。
それじゃあ、ミオさん、また。
ああ、よく気をつけてな。
We ran back the way we came in a hurry. I occasionally tripped over my own feet and stumbled. Without our flashlight, it was difficult to walk down the road just by moonlight. However, the darkness wasn't the only thing making it difficult to walk. I was terrified. Some unknown creature was wandering around this village, aiming to take our lives. That alone was enough to petrify me.
荒川さん。
バカ！手なんか握ろうとすんなよ！
でも、暗くてよくわかんないじゃないですか。
だからって、手繋いで歩くことねえだろ。
We moved at a quick pace and made it back before we knew it. When we came this way from the shrine, it seemed to go on forever, but coming back took no time at all.
あ、ここですよ、荒川さん。
ああ、
What happened? As I rushed back in a hurry, my foot slipped on a patch of mud, and I tumbled down on my butt. Oof.
荒川さん、気をつけてくださいよ。
I wiped the mud off my pants as I rose to my feet.
大丈夫ですか？
悪い悪い。行こうぜ。
Just then, I noticed the rain had stopped, and I could see the moon between the clouds. As I climbed the stone steps illuminated by moonlight, I heard Otebe faintly shout, "Eek!" from behind me.
どうした？
荒川さん、ズボンについてるのって。
What? What's on my pants? I turned to look at the butt of my pants. I had a bad feeling about it. Was it just mud? But then he started to speak up.
それって血じゃないですか？
Oh. It was dark and hard to tell. So I cautiously moved both my hands closer to my eyes. And then I froze. Though they were totally soaked, I could tell it was something other than mud, with a distinct aroma like rusted iron. And it was on both of my hands.
うわっ！いつの間に！
Otebe stared at me with a terrified look in his eyes as he slowly backed down the stone steps, one stair at a time. I did fall down just now, and when I wiped away the mud from my hands. So that puddle of mud was actually a pool of blood.
おい！違うって！俺は何も！
嫌だ、僕死にたくない。
Otebe turned to look away, then dashed into the thicket to get away from me as fast as he could. Why are you running? He didn't kill anybody. He was with you the entire goddamn time. Why are you running?
おい、Otebe! 待てってば、おい！
Otebe's silhouette was completely swallowed by the darkness. Once again, I was surrounded by silence. Who did this blood come from? And why was there a pool of blood out here?
そうだ、みゆきちゃん！
Miyuki-chan and Tawa-san were still in the assembly hall at the top of the stone steps, as far as we know. No way. Did something happen? I charged up the steps at full speed. Something is going on at this shrine. Miyuki-chan, Tawa-san. Please, be safe. Both of you. I dashed up the steps like mad, then ran through the shrine gate and headed straight for the assembly hall. The light in the assembly hall was still on.
みゆきさん！十和田さん！
I stepped inside without waiting for a reply. A fishy stench struck my nose. Oh. Miyuki-chan was lying down in the entry hall, with half her face obscured by her hair. Blood was steadily pouring out of her stomach. Oh, shit! Making periodic dripping sounds, like a leaky faucet. This is real. This really happened.
Miyuki-san!
I knelt down to check Miyuki-chan's face. Her lips were pale. I put a hand on her neck to feel for a pulse, but her body was cold and firm. I understood that she was already gone. This can't be true. Why? Why did Miyuki-chan have to die?
みゆきちゃん。
I tried to gently lay Miyuki-chan's corpse down, but then I suddenly stopped. I saw something in Miyuki-chan's hands. A handgun? I tried to pick it up, but rigor mortis had already set in, so I couldn't loosen the grip on her hands. Why does she have a handgun? The gun in Miyuki-chan's hand felt heavy, and the aroma of gunpowder wafted from the muzzle. Perhaps this gun belongs to Miyuki-chan? Was she carrying this when she came to the village with me? I would assume so. Yuki-chan. Just who were you? I quietly lowered Miyuki-chan's hand and took a look around. The shoe rack was trashed. Maybe they were searching the house? All the closet and cabinet doors were open and their contents spilled out. Who did this? For what purpose? I struggled to soothe my throbbing heart as I stepped into the main room. There were deep red footprints on the tatami mat. They were big, 26 to 27 centimeters long. These are men's footprints. Immediately after I entered the assembly room, I stopped in my tracks. The closet was open and its contents spilled out. And right next to the mountain of futons was another corpse.
Towada-san!
Well, I guess we definitely can rule out Tawada-san. Tawada-san was lying on the ground on her back. A huge amount of blood was flowing out her neck, dyeing the futons next to her a deep red. And, looking closer, I noticed another corpse in the back of the room. Another one? No way. Is this who attacked Tawada-san and Miyuki-chan? Miyuki-chan resisted her handgun and fled into the other room, where she took her dying breath. Who the hell did this other corpse belong to? I cautiously approached the other corpse. Oh shit. I heard a dry sound like a firecracker going off, coming from the shrine grounds. The next moment, I heard the sound again, and a window in the assembly hall shattered that very moment. The bullet hit the light bulb, so the interior was bathed in darkness in a flash. I shouted in the most intimidating voice I could muster. Immediately after that, you were shot. Idiot. Let him know where you were. For a moment, I felt like I heard the sound of the wind. I felt something hot between my eyebrows. And then everything went black. The whole thing happened so fast. They must have fired in the direction of my voice. My voice literally killed me. I can't believe this is where I die. And so, with still no idea who or what Sonozaki-san was, without learning the truth behind Miyuki-chan or any of the other people I met here, and failing to unravel any of the mysteries found here, my consciousness faded into oblivion. I think I experienced a bad end. So going with her was clearly a big mistake, so I'm just gonna plant my feet right where they are and make like a tree.
俺はここで待ってます。
そうかい。乙部は？
僕は。
Otobe was still hesitating, looking back and forth between Sonozaki-san and me. And then...
僕もここに残ります。
そうかい。それがいい。
Well, thinking back about what we just experienced, clearly clearly we're dealing with some very hostile people, whoever shot us to death, so it's very clear that they want to do much more to us than just make us vanish, whoever they are. That being said, though, I'm not sure if just staying here is gonna really save our lives either. Just after saying that, Sonozaki-san slipped off her sandals and returned to the assembly room.
園崎さん。
念のためだ。こいつを持っておきな。
Sonozaki-san pulled something from her kimono and sat it in my hand. It was small, cold, and surprisingly heavy. A gun? I looked down at my hand, trying to discern what I was holding, and then froze.
なんだよこれ。なんで拳銃なんか。
Oh, you got one of your own, I see.
用心のためさ。もしもの場合に備えてね。
もしもってなんだよ。もしもって。
その時が来たらわかるよ。
なんだよそれ。
さあね。それを使う機会がないことを祈ってるよ。
Sonozaki-san apparently had nothing else to say, so she walked out the assembly hall bursting with laughter.
園崎さん。
I looked down at the gun in my hand. This isn't a toy, right? It's a real gun? I'd seen and heard about them many times in fictional contexts, but this was my first time holding a real one. After holding a gun for the first time, it felt much heavier than I imagined.
どうしてミオンさんがこんなものを。
知るかよ。
Otabe's voice trembled as he stood next to me. I squeezed the gun and gave him that curt reply, then returned to the hall.
龍之介さん、やっぱり。
Time for you to give me some answers! Miyuki-chan and Tawada-san both gasped when they saw what I was holding. You too, Tawada! I'm joking, of course.
なんで銃なんか。それ、どうしたんですか。
What's the deal with you having one?
いや、俺のじゃねえよ。預かり物なんだ。園崎さんの。
Miyuki-chan was staring me down while I gave that dejected answer. Tawada-san looked frightened too, timidly peering at me the whole time. Well, that seemed like a natural reaction.
どうしてこんなものを園崎さんが。
さあな。
それで園崎さんは。
一人で車を取りに行った。
そうですか。龍之介さん、大丈夫ですか。
Yuki-chan stared at the gun in my hand for a while, then turned to me with a concerned expression.
何が。
いえ、大丈夫ならいいんですけど。
We all returned to our previous seats without saying anything more. What was Miyuki-chan trying to say? Can Ryusuke handle a gun? Was that the meaning behind her, "Are you feeling alright?" I'm fine. I'm familiar with guns. Well, from movies and manga anyway. Then you're not familiar! If you never handled one before, you're not familiar. I gazed down at the gun in my hand. The safety was still engaged. How do I unlock it? Well, I'll figure it out somehow. You better hope you don't have to figure out right in the middle of a firefight. I considered trying it out, but I stopped. I didn't want to misfire and cause another miserable accident. That's why you unload the gun first. In the end, I'm probably just scared. Miyuki-chan's concern wasn't unreasonable.
本物ですか。
ここでおもちゃを渡されてどうしろって言うんだ。
ですよね。
Otabe anxiously stared at the gun in my hand. I wish Sonozaki-san had given him the gun instead. In that case, I'd be half teasing him, half making jokes in a panic.
ミオンさん、どこまで行ったんでしょうね。
I do not trust Otabe with a gun. At all. Nor you, for that matter, Arakawa.
さあな。すぐ戻ってくるだろ。車探しに行っただけなんだしさ。
どうして銃を荒川さんに預けたんでしょう。
だからわかんねえよ、そんなこと。もしもの場合に備えてって言ってたけど。
もしもの場合ってどんな時なんですか？
俺に聞くなって。だからあの人はそれを教えてくれなかったの。
These questions were starting to annoy me, so I stood up with the gun still in hand.
どこへ行くんですか？
トイレ。
I rushed out of the assembly room. I better not use this thing, if at all possible. I mean, is this actually the real thing? Why don't you try eating it and finding out, if you're so eager? To figure out if it's real, I mean. The gun in my hand was starting to feel like just a toy. If I pulled the trigger, a stream of water might just burst out. I wanted that to be the truth. My thoughts continued to focus on Sonozaki-san as I made my way into the cobweb-littered bathroom. If Sonozaki-san is actually dead, if she's a ghost of a demon that wanders this village, that's absurd. The extreme weight of the gun brought me back to a more realistic train of thought. This gun was strong evidence against the theory of Mion Sonozaki being a ghost. If she was the spirit of a demon living in Hinamizawa, she wouldn't have a gun. I could see a spirit wielding a katana, but not carrying around a gun. Although I should cast aside my preconceived notions, gun-wielding ghosts would be such a pain in the ass to deal with. Still, if she had a gun this entire time, couldn't she have easily killed people? If the people who made our cars disappear tried to make any trouble, she could have simply shot them with this. Or was this supposed to be a challenge?
その銃で私と戦ってみな。命を落とすのはどっちかな。
Could that be her reason for handing me a gun? Ridiculous. Took the word right out of my mouth. Even after all that thought, I still didn't understand anything. I took a deep breath and peered through the small bathroom window. The shrine grounds were pitch black, so I couldn't see anything. At least, that should have been the case.
No!
However, contrary to my expectations, there were people just outside the window. And not only that, but our eyes met. They stared at me for a while, but as soon as I started to move, they quickly ducked down and disappeared. Every drop of blood in my body froze in an instant. My heart started pounding. I didn't have the courage to shout who's there at my adversary. On top of that, my legs were frozen. Get a hold of yourself. What are you doing? There's someone out there. I tightly clenched the gun in my hand. My palm was dripping with so much sweat that the heavy gun was likely to slip out at any moment. I cautiously peered out the window once more, but it looked like nobody was there anymore. However, when I gazed into the darkness, the signs were still there. All I had to go on was the light leaking out from the assembly hall window, but I desperately kept a lookout. How long did it take for my eyes to adjust to the darkness outside the window? 5 minutes? 10? In reality, it's probably just a minute or less. In the shade of the trees, I could make out 5 or 6 people.
マジかよ。
I gently exited the bathroom and headed back to the assembly room, careful not to make any noisy footsteps along the way. Every floorboard that sank underfoot whittled away at my nerves. Yuki-chan and the others were still sitting in the assembly hall.
龍之介さん、どうしたんですか？
Yuki-chan called out to me in a dubious voice when she noticed me quietly tiptoe into the room. No, it might have actually been a perfectly ordinary voice. Yuki-chan knew nothing of our current situation, so she should have been rather carefree.
もしかして荒川さん、お腹でも壊したんですか？
バカ、そんなんじゃねえよ。
Once I realized how loud I was getting, I quieted down in a hurry. Ochibei's relaxed tone irritated me, but it made me realize he was doing nothing more than talking normally. Calm down. Calm down.
大丈夫ですか？
どうやら本当にこいつを使うことになりそうだ。
Then, I quietly told everyone about the people I saw outside the bathroom window.
よくは見えなかったけど、外にはあと5、6人はいるみたいなんだ。
それって本当に人間なんですか？
どういう意味だよ。
僕たちを鬼隠しするために来たシャン、銃なんかじゃ太刀打ちできないじゃないですか。
Well then, we might as well just say our prayers.
バカ、そんなわけねえだろ。
どうしてそう言い切れるんですか？ちゃんと見えなかったんでしょ？
それだ聞くけどな。だったらどうすんだよ。もしも霊なんかだったらこのままやられるしかねえって言いたいのか？
そんなことは言ってないですけど。
ひょっとして。
That moment, Tawasan was sitting with her arms around her knees, quietly muttering something.
私が見たのと同じかも。
What?
私さっき見たの。黒っぽい感じの人が何人かこの神社の近くに。だから怖くて。
Why?
私。
Why didn't you say anything sooner? Tawasan looked terrified, like all the blood had drained from her face. Her eyes were black with dread, and her teeth were chattering. Someone telling a lie wouldn't react that way.
なら決まりですね。
Yuki-chan reached into her knapsack and pulled out a dark-colored object. Then she quickly rose to her feet and looked down at me as she spoke.
私見てきます。龍之介さん、援護できますか？
は？ってな。
For a moment, I wasn't sure what she meant. But then I was shocked when I noticed what a dark object in her hand truly was. The thing she was holding was a gun? At first, I thought she'd taken it from me. But then I verified that the gun Sonozaki-san gave me was still in my hands. Which means, the other gun must belong to Miyuki-chan?
みゆきちゃん、その銃。
説明は後です。行きましょう。
Miyuki-chan ignored my question and quietly ran toward the entryway, her gun in hand. I was surprised again by how quickly her body could move.
みゆきちゃん、あんた一体何者なんだよ。
Yuki-chan's gun clicked as she disengaged the safety in the shadow of the doorway. I was surprised once more by how skillfully her hands moved. I tried to follow Miyuki-chan's lead and undo my safety, but I couldn't get it off.
貸してください。
Yuki-chan grabbed the gun from my hand and quickly flipped the safety.
どうぞ。
ああ。
I grabbed the gun as I said that and held it tight. If I pull this trigger, it'll fire a bullet. A bullet that can kill anything it hits. Once I realized that simple fact, the weight of the weapon felt even heavier. Sweat came pouring out of my entire body.
荒川さん、大丈夫ですか？
Otobe came rushing toward the entrance. Miyuki-chan quickly grabbed him by the sleeve and moved her lips close to his ear.
何ですか？
あなたも手伝っていい？
僕は何を？
乙部君は私がこの扉を開けたら境内の明かりのスイッチを入れてください。あのスイッチのどれかだからつくまで全部やってください。
はい。
After saying only that, Miyuki-chan put her hand on the door and listened carefully.
右に3人、左に4人。
7. She can piece together the enemy's whereabouts from just that? Miyuki-chan's eyes were piercingly sharp, like a wild beast preying on men.
みゆきちゃん、あんた、一体。
その話は後です。目の前のことに集中してください。龍之介さん、行きますよ。
Miyuki-chan threw the door open, and in that moment, the very moment the door came open, I heard sounds reminiscent of exploding firecrackers. Otoe flipped the lights in the shrine grounds all at once, then sprinted back into the assembly hall room at full speed. The enemies must have been blinded by the lights. They stopped firing for a moment. Then Miyuki-chan leapt out, charged straight forward toward a large tree out in front, took cover behind it, then quickly turned, ready to fire.
そこ！
I could hear someone groan, "Ugh," from somewhere off in the distance. Miyuki-chan continued firing. Another 3 dry sounds quickly burst out. The gunshots sounded far more shoddy than they do in movies. But a thin trail of smoke was emanating from Miyuki-chan's gun. That's the power of a gun. I couldn't bring myself to move from this spot. I had no idea where to aim or when to pull the trigger. No, that's not it. Don't lie to yourself, Ryunosuke Arakawa. I didn't have it in me to pull the trigger. The hand holding the gun trembled pathetically under the weight of the thing. A bullet whizzed past my nose and struck the door right behind me. I crouched down and held my arms over my head in a fluster. The bullets struck the spot where I was just standing, one after another.
龍之介さん、逃げてください。そこ、危ないです。
Miyuki-chan shot at me from behind the tree. Immediately thereafter, 4 or 5 bullets struck where the tree Miyuki-chan was hiding behind.
どうしようか。光源くらい読みやがれ。
When the rain of bullets ceased, Miyuki-chan leaned out from the back of the big tree and suddenly started firing. Suddenly, I started to think. I began to wonder if I had gotten lost in the world of a movie. If these bullets strike me, am I really going to die? Ask your other self that from about 30-something minutes ago. My paralysis started to clear up as my sense of reality grew weaker. Thanks to Otobe, the lights in the shrine grounds allowed me to see my enemies. Men in black suits, running through the darkness.
なんだよあいつら。
I couldn't really make out their faces, but I could sense an aura emanating from them, filled with the scum of the earth. At least they're human. They're not ghosts of Hinamizawa. I aimed at one of the men in black and pulled the trigger. recoil dealt a heavy blow to my shoulder. The bullet didn't strike my target, but the man in black took cover behind a nearby tree. I guess even an amateur like myself can be a threat. As I thought that, I aimed once more at the patch of trees. Yuki-chan turned back in my direction and shouted. While I was distracted by the man hiding in the trees, another man in black suddenly jumped out in front of me. I heard a dull sound and looked up to see the man in black collapse as he reached out to me. Thanks for the save. And standing behind him was Sonozaki-san?
なんだ。
あんたは隠れてな。
After saying only that, Sonozaki-san ignored the rain of bullets and charged at the man in black for a katana in hand. Fucking lunatic!
撃てば当たるとでも思ってんのかい？おあいにくだね。
Her powerful assertion was mysteriously proven true. Not a single bullet struck Sonozaki-san. You had the luck of a goddamn god then. Sonozaki-san lifted the handle of her sword up through one man's stomach, then struck the man beside him in the neck. The men fell to the ground, one after another.
弾を撃つだけ無駄だよ。そう言っただろ。
Sonozaki-san dispatched the enemies, one by one. Her swordplay was as accurate as her footwork. And quick, too. The difference in strength was huge. So much so that it was easy to forget she was fighting to the death. Her combat technique was beautiful and overwhelming.
なんなんだよあの人。
A man hiding behind a tree pointed his gun towards Sonozaki-san and carefully pulled the trigger.
園崎さん、危ない。
遅いんだよ。
The gun flew out of the hands of the man behind the tree. He looked on with terror in his eyes. I could see the smoke rising from Yuki-chan's gun.
みゆきちゃん。
Finally sensing the difference in strength, the men in black retreated while supporting their wounded companions. Sonozaki-san returned her sword to its sheath and started heading back to the assembly hall. Well, that was tense. Yuki-chan started heading back too, with her smoking gun still in hand. Near the entrance, Sonozaki-san turned to Miyuki-chan and grinned.
やるね、あんた。
敵に褒められたって嬉しくなんかありませんよ。
Miyuki-chan responded tersely to Sonozaki-san's commendation, then abruptly turned her back. And then, the two of them left it at that and entered the assembly hall. I followed behind them, but stopped when I noticed something. Enemy. What does she mean by that? I'm quite curious myself, to be honest. I stopped in front of the doorway to think it over on my own.
そうか。
My wandering thoughts seemed to be connected by a single thread. Mion Sonozaki was the next head of the Sonozaki family. And of course, her father was a high-ranking Yakuza officer with roots in the Kanto region. And the Sonozaki group was a powerful Yakuza organization centered around Hinamizawa in Okinomiya. I've heard rumors recently that a faction of the Sonozaki group split off from the Sonozaki family. But people have always misused the Sonozaki name for their own gain. That wasn't anything new. In other words, this is an internal Yakuza conflict. And the reason Miyuki-chan called Sonozaki-san an enemy was perhaps because she might be in league with the enemy Yakuza. I think she'd have a good laugh if you told her that. That seemed like a reasonable possibility. She seemed adept at handling firearms, and had a sharp gaze you never see in an ordinary person. So it makes sense if Miyuki-chan were with the Yakuza. As I returned to the assembly room, Miyuki-chan was wiping her rain-soaked clothes with a cute, floral-patterned hand towel. As I stared at Miyuki-chan's pretty face like a demon stalking its prey, carefully monitoring her movements. No way. Could Miyuki-chan actually be with the Yakuza?
大丈夫ですか？
ああ。
龍之介さんも服濡れてるんじゃないですか？拭いておかないと風邪ひきますよ。
ああ、そうだよな。
Not wanting to sit next to Miyuki-chan, I took a seat next to Otabe. I smiled and tried to keep up appearances. If Miyuki-chan really was a Yakuza member, I had mixed feelings about it.
大変でしたね。びっくりしたでしょう。
ああいうのって初めてだからさ。
Even though I was aware of what was going on, I had no idea how to respond, so I quickly threw together a few meaningless words. This day was full of surprises. I wasn't sure which among them was most surprising. The feeling of holding a pistol to safety disengaged, a shootout unfolding right in front of my eyes, the existence of those men in black, Yuki-chan's true identity. Everything was far beyond surprising. I was dumbfounded.
龍之介さん、大丈夫ですか？
ああ、平気平気。
Yuki-chan gave me a dubious look, but she said nothing more. New tips unlocked. Dozing driver leaves 3 dead. Terrorist joint security. Untimely death of IT and entrepreneur. Got a triple tipper this time around, huh? Well, let's see what these are. Around 4:15 p.m. on the 3rd, a truck swerved into oncoming traffic and collided with a passenger car on a country road in Narita, Chiba Prefecture. After the accident, the riders of the passenger car, Tadashi Hyuga-san, 44, his wife, Yukito-san, 43, and their second daughter, Meisei-san, 13, were brought to a hospital, but died soon afterwards due to the bruising suffered across their entire bodies. The driver of the truck, Kazumi Kajimoto, 22, was seriously hurt in the accident and is currently undergoing intensive care, but is expected to recover. According to the Narita Police Department's investigation, the truck was swerving even before the accident site. The driver, Kajimoto, was suspected of falling asleep at the wheel and arrested on the charge of negligent manslaughter. According to acquaintances of the Hyuga family, they were on the way to the airport to pick up their eldest daughter, Machiko-san, 19, who was returning home after graduating in America. Oh, damn, that is awful. Imagine coming home just to find out that your entire family died on their way to pick you up. Jesus. They were a happy family. The kids and parents got along so well. Machiko-san was really looking forward to coming home, commented a neighbor who was losing her voice from a sudden tragedy. This is interesting and all, but I have a feeling I'm missing something important with this tip. Like, maybe I should be recognizing some of the names here. Either way, clearly this is relevant to what's going on, but I'm just wondering, how is it relevant? The danger of joint liability. If your parents, siblings, or other guardians asked if you'd like to become a debt cosigner, you may not think much of it. There are many opportunities to act as a cosigner in Japanese society. However, when it comes to joint liability agreements, those shouldn't be decided so easily. Those demand careful judgment and preparation before accepting. A cosigner and a joint liability partner have completely different scope and weight in their responsibilities. A cosigner certifies that a debtor is credible, essentially saying they trust the person they're acting as a guardian for. On the other hand, a joint liability partner bears all the same responsibilities as is the borrower. The scope is essentially identical to the debtor himself. Therefore, when a debtor abandons their obligation to repay their debt, or loses the ability to repay, the responsibility is passed on to the joint liability partner. And even if you're not a signatory yourself, there are cases where responsibility is inherited because a parent was a cosigner. There is even a risk that a person can become a cosigner for a person they don't know, and forced to repay a massive debt. The joint liability system is unique to Japanese culture and very much so a product of an older era. And thanks to that system, people are essentially able to borrow money using people as collateral. So for anyone who has accepted a joint liability agreement or is currently considering accepting one, please understand exactly what it means to become a joint liability partner. Yeah, it sounds like the sort of thing I personally would not want to mess with. At all. Far more trouble than it's worth. So, negligent homicide, joint liability, and now the untimely death of an IT entrepreneur. Masamichi Hori-san of Hori Consulting, a pioneer of the IT governance boom and the IT entrepreneurship, passed away at 1:30 a.m. on the 5th as a result of acute subarachnoid hemorrhaging, age 41. I have no idea what that is. Masamichi-san focused on the importance of IT infrastructure from early on, and was able to accumulate a considerable amount of assets in his role as founder. President Hori's good sense of organizational strength were far beyond any other systems engineer. But as a result, he always felt the need to stay heavily involved in large-scale projects, so he was far too busy to spend any time at home. I wonder if his tireless work at all hours of the day may have contributed to his early death. Concerned parties lamented his untimely death. On the other hand, the death of Hori Consulting's founder forced the company to once again consider a diversified management structure. Economic critics familiar with the situation pointed out, a company led by a single charismatic founder will be in a pinch after their death. Sometimes the founder's role in a venture capital firm is too large for a proper successor to emerge, and this may be one of those cases. The name Masamichi Hori carries tremendous power. Those closest to the deceased, such as his wife, are at the top of the list of people set to take control of the organization, but the outlook is still uncertain. I feel like there's something staring at me in the face of all these tips that I should be grasping. But it eludes me. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe it's because I'm just tired, but there's something. I don't know. Well, even though this is gonna result in me cutting things rather short for what I usually put out, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end things here. Feels like a good place to stop. So, I think we definitely confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that whoever is here with us is indeed hostile, murderously so. They dress in black, so obviously the $1,000,000 question is, who are they? Why are they here? And why are they trying to kill us? I got my own theory that they're probably connected to Tokyo, if I had to guess. Specifically, the people that were involved in the Great Hinamizawa disaster. But, yep, past that, I got no idea. I mean, I don't really know who, or rather, I have no idea who else it could be other than that. I mean, to me, it just seems like it's the obvious party. That's the obvious party to suspect here. Maybe we'll get some answers in the next episode. I don't know. Either way, I hope that you guys enjoyed this latest episode of the Higurashi and the Cry console arcs. If you did, and you want to see more content from me, feel free to hit like and subscribe. I will see you all next time. Take care.